Hello and welcome to the McWaters Effect. I'm your host, Matt. Today we're talking about how the conservative Democrats, the regular Democrats, and the progressive Democrats couldn't agree to get some kind of minimum wage put in to the stimulus bill. First thing I want to let everybody know is that I'm against the minimum wage policy. I'm against it because it doesn't help with jobs. It doesn't actually help with how much people make. If you go to Sweden, Norway, some of those countries, they don't even have a minimum wage. And people there make more than people here do. So minimum wage is something to actually make people feel good and try to divide people with, that politicians use. And there's another thing I've noticed about this bill and about the Democrats. Progressive Democrats, y'all a bunch of chumps. They convince you guys to go in and vote for an established candidate like Joe Biden and saying they're going to give you $2,000 checks and a $15 minimum wage. And you don't even get either. You got a $1,400 check and zero minimum wage in the bill. That makes you a chump. Okay, right now, minimum wage is at $7.25 federally. They want to push it to go to $15. But right now, it's not. They didn't even get it put in the stimulus bill. Not only that, you had 8 Democrats in the House that was actually against the $15 minimum wage. Now, an official said the $15 minimum wage would not be allowed in the bill due to it can't be allowed in the bill because government budget reconciliation must have GOP support. The progressive Democrats call for Biden to overrule the official to put a minimum wage back in the bill. The progressives are right. Biden can overrule that and put the minimum wage back in the bill. And we know from hindsight, the bill's voted on party lines anyway. So what does it matter if it's in there or not? It wasn't in there and they still voted on party line. Both Republicans and Democrats. I mean, they should have known they weren't going to get the Republicans to vote for it. The Republicans wanted to cut the bill in half. Democrats, hell, they probably wanted more than that. But they went ahead and went with $1.9 trillion because that's what Biden supported when he was running for president. Look at this tweet Bernie Sanders put out. There's not one state in our country where you can make ends meet on current federal minimum wage. Not one. How quickly would Congress raise the minimum wage if they were forced to live on $7.25 an hour? Outrageous. Preach on, Bernie. Preach on. What is interesting is the effective national minimum wage is actually $11.80. How they determine that is get the minimum wage from each state. Yes, each state has a minimum wage on their own. Add them up, divide it by 50, and that's what you get. $11.80. Such as Alabama, their minimum wage is $7.25. Then you got Alaska, their minimum wage is $10.34. Then you got Arizona, which is $12.15. The cost of living in each state is going to be different. I lived in West Virginia and I've lived in Washington State. In West Virginia, rent is anywhere from one-bedroom house is anywhere from $500 to $600. But then if you go to Washington State, it's anywhere from $1,200 to $1,300. So it's doubled. So the cost of living there is most time doubled. So the minimum wage in West Virginia is $9 an hour. So if you went to Washington State, you expect the minimum wage to be around $18 an hour to compensate for the income gap. It makes more sense for the state to determine how much minimum wage should be instead of the federal government. Now, do I think Washington State should have minimum wage at $18 an hour? They don't. Their minimum wage is actually $15, which makes more sense because that's how much you want kids to be starting off at when they first get out, when they're in high school or first got out of high school and it's their first job. They're not going to go directly making $20-something an hour and be real successful at working until they actually get a trade and learn it well and be successful at it. And Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, actually believed $11 minimum wage would work in the bill instead of $15, and other Democrats that were in the House actually agreed. But you know what was interesting? They didn't even put it in the bill. They could have gotten $11 an hour federal minimum wage, but instead, they didn't put anything. Kept that $7.25. How much sense does that make? Hell, the states have already done it for them anyway. It's a symbolic gesture, I guess, making $11 an hour. Okay, let me go into more of an explanation of why I think progressives are chumps. Okay, they convinced you guys to go and vote for Joe Biden, an establishment candidate for president, so they could get this COVID bill passed with a $15 minimum wage and a $2,000 check. Not only that, they also convinced you to go and vote in Georgia for those 2 senators to get, so the Democrats would have control of the Senate so they could do the same thing. And yet, at the end of the day, when the bill was passed, instead of $2,000, you had $1,400, and a minimum wage, all you had, it was supposed to be 15, and you didn't increase it at all. When you had actual conservative Democrats say, hey, we'll do 11. And some Republicans actually agreed to do 11. And yet, they didn't put that in the bill at all. That's why you guys are chumps. They convince you to go and vote against your interest. That's being a chump. That's why you won't see me ever voting for a Democrat. I did that once. And that was for Obama in 2008. Because I thought, he was talking about we're going to change things. We're going to bring the troops home. Well, he didn't change anything. He made things worse. And yet, when it comes to the troops, he escalated the wars in the Middle East. After that, the next election, I couldn't vote for Romney either because he would have done the same thing. So I voted for a Libertarian. And the next election after that, I didn't know anything about Trump, so I was like, I ain't going to vote for him. And Hillary Clinton, there's no way in hell I was going to vote for her because she would have done the same thing as Obama. Matter of fact, she would have probably been worse. And I voted for Libertarian again. And then this election, 2020, I had to vote for Trump because he actually pulled back troops, created peace deals with Israel and some of the countries in the Middle East. He was doing the right thing. So of course I'm going to vote for someone who I actually agree with on when it comes to the border and also the wars. All right, guys, this is the end of my rant. If you enjoyed, comment below. If you didn't, I don't know what to tell you. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. See you later. Peace.